Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Mohammed, your personal PMP coach from Certified with Ease. In this video, we are going to do some PMP mindset training. But before we begin, quick announcement. If you want to know more about us, if you want to have a structured game plan to get PMP certified, if you want to see if our course, our program is for you, book an appointment with the team and we can walk you through everything. The best thing is that even if you don't join our program, you'll have a game plan to tackle this exam once and for all. So you can find the link to that in the description. It's also going to be pinned as the first comment, okay? So this video is going to be about PMP mindset. What is the PMP mindset? The PMP mindset, in short, is how one should think as a project manager according to the PMI, the Project Management Institute. Now, we at Certified with Ease do things a little bit differently. We have our principles. This is our entire program, by the way. There's a whole bunch of resources that you can use here. If you want to know more about it, book that appointment. But we use principles to guide us and to help us eliminate answers and choose the right answer immediately. So on the exam, you're going to not only save time, you're going to get to the right answer immediately. Okay, so that's exactly what we want to focus on today. 25 questions, not that many, but I want to give you a little taste of how we do things at Certified with Ease so that you can take this with you and join our program as well, okay? All right, so this is a challenge. We're going to read the answers without the question. And if we need to refer back to the question, we are going to do that, okay? And we're going to link each answer, if there is a link, to a principle from our list, okay? So 3, 2, 1, let's start with question number 1. A, record the risk and escalate the issue to the project sponsor. So we know from principle number 8, we do not escalate things. We don't escalate things. Now remember, you want to avoid the word escalate. On your exam, discussion or discussing, engaging, speaking to someone is not the same as escalating, even though it can be implied. When you see the E word on your exam, escalate, do not select that option. All right. B, delegate the task of sourcing the AV system to the core planning team. Eliminate that option as well. Why? Principle number 23. Never give your team member an extra task that will reduce their capacity. It's not your team member's responsibility to procure this AV system. That's probably the procurement department, right? The team members are focused on the project. They need to focus on that and that alone. Eliminate. Note the delay in the project status update due to the missing equipment. So we never want to settle for a delay. That shouldn't be our first step. So this is principle number 2 over here. Never settle for delays. A delay in project management is a very, very big negative. Think about it. If you delay things, you're gonna have to pay your contractors, your employees more for the missed time, equipment rental costs. Your client's gonna be upset. There's a whole bunch of different things. Call a meeting with key stakeholders to consider shifting priorities for upcoming tasks. Okay, so call a meeting is synonymous for having a discussion. This is principle number 1 over here. Always discuss, investigate, and analyze, right? So we solved this question. Obviously, I'm explaining it to you, so it did take a little bit longer. But if you get really good at the mindset, you'll be able to look through the list and say, you know what, D is the right answer right away, immediately, okay? Quick note, you guys can note this down. Whenever you see principle number 1 as one of the options, just like D, principle number 1, and all the other actions are things that can potentially happen after a discussion, choose principle number 1. Choose the option that is similar to this principle over here, or that implies this principle. Awesome. Let us move on to question number 2. By the way, guys, these are not questions that are easy, quote unquote. They're questions that mimic the PMP exam. So we've taken the style, we've taken the different topics, and we've made these questions according to that. Okay. So if you get these questions and if they're easy for you, it's a good sign. It's a really good sign. And if they're hard, no worries. Let's keep working at it, right? Remember, we're trying to link the principles. We're trying to train our mindset to understand. All right. Assign high impact promotional work to the most experienced team members. Anytime they say assign a specific task based on the most experienced team members, most likely that's not going to be the answer. I haven't read the question, so I'm not sure, but let's see what else there is. Confirm media buying and production budgets with the team. Okay, now this could be an option. Why with the team? Well, one of our principles over here states that your team members are the experts. So when you're executing a project, and that's mainly where most of the costs come up, there might be budget overruns when you're executing. Your project team is going to know about the details. So this could be an option. Analyze lessons learned from similar past campaigns. This could be an option if the question specifies that there has been past projects that have been completed. Okay, so this is another principle over here. Here we go. 19. When the question mentions that a similar past project has been completed, choose that answer that allows you to refer back to those projects. Why? Because the question is taking its time and it's telling you that, hey, past projects have been completed. Use that information in the answer. Again, we don't know that because we haven't read the question, but we'll go back to it. Share the overarching campaign message and branding goals before distributing specific tasks. Okay, principle number 1, right? You're sharing this message, you're discussing it before taking action. So this tells me that perhaps the team and the stakeholders are not on the same page. So we have some good candidates right now. A, I'm going to eliminate, right? I don't think that's going to be the right answer. We don't want to just base high impact promotional work on the most experienced team members, right? Especially when we have the other options available. We'll come back to it. So let's give it a soft X. B could be option, C can be an option, and D can be an option. Now it's time to read the question to understand the problem statement. Remember, that's an important part of our quest to find the answer. So we're going to skip all of this. The first sentence, that's just setting up the situation. The campaign is broken down into iterative phases involving close collaboration with specialists in digital media, branding, analytics. The manager wants to develop realistic timelines that the whole team is on board with. So if the manager wants to develop realistic timelines, what phase in the project is the project manager in? Is the project in its beginning phases, in its middle phases, or its end? Beginning. You're planning. You're looking at the timelines. So does it make sense to assign high impact proportional work? It can be. Or does it make sense to confirm media buying? Probably not. Analyze lessons learned. So we don't have any lessons learned in this project. So we're going to eliminate that. It makes sense to share the overarching campaign message to get everyone on board before deciding on these details. Realistic timelines means that you're in the beginning of your project. You want to stick with something that will bring everyone together before distributing specific tasks. Okay? So you see how the principles tie in with our three-step methodology. Our three-step methodology, framing the problem, understanding the which answers contrary to the principles, and then choosing the best answer, right? So you have to have 3 of these things. But this was a good question, right? This is a good question that tells us that you can't always rely on the principles, but you can always rely on the 3 steps, okay? But just for the sake of this video, we are going to continue with our methodology. A, hold a session with the available stakeholders to begin outlining the project plan. Okay. This could be if we're in the beginning of the project. Let's see. Inform the project sponsor about the stakeholders' unavailability and ask for advice on how to move forward. So this is not something that we bring to the project sponsor, right? Even though the word inform is used, it's important to understand the role of the project sponsor. We don't want to bring this up with the sponsor. Why? Because it's not his or her responsibility. If someone's unavailable, we got to work around it. B is gone, all right? B will be in line with escalating. Escalating is usually done when there's an issue that doesn't involve that specific individual. Begin developing the project plan with the internal team and consult the stakeholders later. Okay. So this kind of tells me now, just from the answers, that perhaps some of the stakeholders are unavailable. This is not what we want to do. Even though our principles are not being contradicted here, stakeholders are important when it comes to the project plan. We want to involve them. We want to have everyone's feedback, right? Several heads are better than just one. Different perspectives, especially when it comes to planning. Let's leave it for now because it doesn't contradict our principles, but it already doesn't feel right. Okay? If you really think about it, if we consult the stakeholders later, this can kind of cause a delay, right? Because at the end of the day, we're going to need their feedback. So if we can't get everything done at this meeting, then it's going to delay the process. So in a way, it does contradict principle number 2. Contact each stakeholder individually through email, phone, or one-on-one discussions to collect their feedback. Okay. So this already tells me that, okay, the situation, without even reading, has to do with some stakeholders being unavailable or not answering their emails or not getting back to us. So how do we get their feedback? So following the approval of a major construction company project, the project manager needs to work closely with key stakeholders to determine specific needs, limitations, and assumptions. Some stakeholders cannot attend. The answer here is going to be what then? We don't want to hold a session with the available stakeholders only. Why? Because it's going to be redundant. We're going to have to hold another session. We need this feedback from these stakeholders. They're important. Inform the sponsor it's out. And the C is the same as A. So D is going to be the best answer. In a project, and you guys might look at D and might like, hey, Muhammad, that's inefficient. I understand that. But in a project, you're going to work with people with varying needs. Let's say, for example, you're really tech savvy and you tell your entire team that, hey, from now on, we're going to use Trello or Asana or Monday.com. I'm not sponsored, by the way. I'm just mentioning those because I've seen a whole bunch of ads for those. So I'm just mentioning it's in my mind. But let's say on your team, you have a bunch of people that are not tech savvy. Let's say you have a bunch of seniors and whatnot, or people that are generally not tech savvy. That is going to impede the progress. Rather, if they're not tech savvy, let's say the majority of your team, 80% is accustomed to using Asana. 20% is not. You're going to find a workaround. You're going to put that in the communications management plan as well, that I need to communicate with these stakeholders through email, through phone, through whatever it may be, right? But the best answer here is going to be D. Let's move on. Question number 4. A, bi-weekly status updates in writing from technical leads and design team members. Weekly in-person meeting with all key stakeholders at the main office. Bi-weekly video calls with all relevant members of the project team. Weekly one-on-one check-ins with each stakeholder across both work streams. Okay, so this is not a typical question that contradicts our principles. This is more of a, hey, what should we do? What should we do to collect information? Okay, so now we're going to be forced to read the question. And I always tell you guys on the exam, do not skip out on reading the question. Don't jump straight into the answer. We're only doing this for the purpose of training our mindset. Okay? So they do make a distinction here. They say video calls and in-person meetings, meaning that perhaps there is some teams that are not available in person. Where are we to find out? I'm going to skip the first sentence. That sets up the scenario. The project includes deploying new cloud infrastructure, using a structured rollout plan, and redesigning the user interface through an agile approach. So we have a structured rollout plan. What is that? What does that sound like? Predictive. And we have an agile approach for the redesigning. These changes must be implemented without interrupting service for current users. Okay. What types of communications should the project manager incorporate into the schedule to ensure the project remains on track? Okay, so we have two things. We have you can think of it as a predictive team, and we have an agile team. We need to, because these two things are really distinct. We need to find a way to communicate with both of these teams. Okay, so bi-weekly status updates in writing from technical leads and design team members. Now, when it comes to status updates, you want to have a conversation. You don't want to have it in writing. We're going to skip this for now. But remember that when it comes to communication, when it comes to updates, meetings, do not have it in writing. Weekly in-person meetings with all key stakeholders at the main office. Now, this is a problem. The reason why this is a problem is because this is going to be a problem for the agile team. Agile teams are extremely busy. They have a lot on their plate. Weekly in-person meetings might not be something that they can accommodate for. They will have their individual daily stand-ups amongst their team members, but this is referring to weekly key stakeholders meeting, right? Everyone involved. Bi-weekly video calls with all relevant members of the project team. Okay, that's really good. Bi-weekly, don't meet too frequently, meet every other week with all relevant members of the project team. Not everybody has to be there. Remember, the more people you have in your meetings, the more time it's going to consume, the less you're going to get done. Weekly one-on-one check-ins with each stakeholder across both work streams. One-on-one check-ins with each stakeholder is going to be very difficult. It's going to consume a lot of time. Having everyone in a bi-weekly video call meeting is the best way to do it, okay? So C is going to be the best answer here. Let's move on. Question number 5. Again, let's look at the answers. Arrange targeted training sessions on automation system protocols to address the skills gap. Okay, so this might address the problem. If the question talks about a training gap or a skills gap, that could be the answer. Reinforce the importance of staying on schedule to avoid negative impacts on overall construction. All right, no problem with that as well. Adjust the project timeline and communicate the new schedule to stakeholders. No problem with that at all, right? These are all answers that don't contradict our principles. Remember, we're looking for the answer that contradicts. Accept that the timeline will slip due to technical knowledge gap. We never accept a delay. So if you look again, to remind you guys, principle number 2, never accept a delay. So D is gone. We're left with A, B, and C. We got to understand the problem now in order to address it. Project manager is leading a team working on a digital control system for a smart commercial building. In the second phase of the work, the team consistently falls behind on tasks such as integrating automated HVAC and security systems. Okay, so none of that, guys, none of that has been important. It's just setting up the situation. The next question, the next line has to be important. Upon investigation, the project man discovers delays are caused by a lack of experience with building automation protocols. Okay. What should the PM do? Well, we have a skills gap now. The best way to address that is to provide training. Simple as that. So A is going to be the best answer here. Okay. Right? Hopefully you guys are getting used to the PMP mindset and the 3 steps. Remember, guys, we have a PMP Accelerator course. This course has been made for everyone who's a busy parent, who is working 9 to 5, who doesn't have that much time to spend on studying, wants to get certified and wants to move on. A whole bunch of questions here. We have the foundational questions. We have a bunch of simulators here as well. Support, weekly sessions, everything, guys. So if you're interested, book an appointment with us, right? Let's take it from there. Sorry for the small advertisement, but listen, I know it's of value, and I want to help you guys as much as possible. So book an appointment with us and see if it's for you. Question number 6. Again, let's look at the answers. Escalate the issue, the E word, to the executive sponsors or steering committee for a decision. No. Okay. Eliminate. Why? Principle number 8. Principle number 8 is over here. Never escalate things. Refer the consultant to the approved software requirements and scope documented in the contract. Okay. So this could be something where it could be the answer if there's a disagreement in the terms and conditions. So we're going to leave it. Add the requested security features to maintain a good relationship with the consultant. Okay, so I understand where this is going. So I already know this is not going to be C. The question is probably there's a disagreement. Consultant maybe wants a little bit more money or something of that sort. Or, says something that's not within the contract terms. What should we do? Modify the project scope and timeline to include the changes without getting a formal approval. So we never want to do that. Why? Because anytime you have a change, it needs to go through a change request process. Okay, it needs to go through something formal. So D is gone and A is gone. We're left with B and C. Let's read this question. I'm going to skip the first line and I'm going to scan through. Late in the development, a cybersecurity consultant who was not involved during the initial planning requests the integration of advanced security features that go beyond what was outlined in the approved requirements and budget. So let's look at B. Refer the consultant to the approved software requirements and scope document in the contract. That's exactly what we want to do. We don't want to add this. If we add this, this is known in project management as scope creep. Scope creep is when you add unnecessary embellishments to your project. This can increase the risks, obviously increase the budget, and all these kind of things. So we want to avoid that, right? Let's move on to question number 7. Okay, question number 7. A, reprioritize the backlog to focus on the most critical features based on business impact. So business impact is synonymous for value, right? So over here, always choose the most value-driven answer. Okay, it's the one that has the most impact, the most value, the most benefit. So that's a good candidate. Let's move on. Rearrange backlog items according to technical complexity and team capabilities. Well, no, we want to rearrange the backlog according to the business impact or value. So remember, guys, these words are very important. Reprioritize, rearrange. That's because in a backlog, and you're going to see this for C, I kind of caught it with my eye, that we never remove features from a backlog. Rather, we just reprioritize them if they're not valuable anymore. Okay? So C is not going to be the answer, simply because we don't do that for a backlog. Transition to a traditional project management approach to minimize future disruptions. Okay, so we don't want to do that as well. And I'm going to give you this little insight. It's not a principle. I should put it as a principle. Anytime an answer says you should change project approaches, eliminate that answer immediately, especially if you're executing the project. And the reason being is because you can't just change an agile project to a predictive project. You have to change the project team. You might have to retrain them. You have to change the project plans. It's just way too much. It's not going to make sense. D is never going to be the answer. The best answer, guys, is going to be A, right? We have our most value-driven answer. In this case, the most impact. Okay, let's move on to question 8. A, conduct a full walkthrough inspection to confirm all specifications are met. Nothing wrong there. Verify the build complies with all applicable codes and construction standards. Nothing wrong there. Ensure the project meets all contractual closeout and acceptance criteria. Nothing wrong there. Reassess project spending before final handover to the client. Okay, so I don't sense anything wrong with the answers here. We're going to simply have to read the question. As the completion date for a new office building nears, the client raises concerns about the overall quality of the construction work and whether it meets expectations. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. Okay, let me explain this. This is a quick hack, guys. There's so many principles that I'm thinking about right now as I'm going through these questions, but we want to keep this concise. Note this down. When the client comes along at the end of the project and there's a disagreement on the deliverables, you can check a couple of things. If the answer says check the acceptance criteria, that's what you want to go for. The acceptance criteria is that criteria, that checklist that has been agreed upon mutually from both client side and the project management side on what the deliverable actually looks like. Or you can look at the definition of done if the question mentions it, right? So over here, we have conduct a full walkthrough inspection. It's not going to really help, right? We need something to look at. We need some kind of document, something that has both of our signatures on. Verify that build complies with all applicable codes and construction standards. So we're not looking at the standards themselves. The client is coming along and say, you know what, this doesn't meet our expectations. We're not concerned about what the industry wants, right? Obviously, this is assuming that we've met all those criteria. Ensure the project meets all contractual closeout and acceptance criteria. There we go. We got our answer number C, or letter C. Okay. The budget, that's not the concern here. So you'll know that just from reading the question. All right, awesome. Let us move on to question number 9. A, instruct the team to revise reports to include relevant performance metrics and testing outcomes. Okay. That makes sense. Now you're probably wondering, hey, Mohammed, doesn't this contradict principle number 23? Like we never give our team members an extra task? Not necessarily, because this is a part of their work. Since the team members are the ones building the project, they need to include relevant performance metrics and testing outcomes because they're the ones who are actually building the product. There's no one else that's going to know more than them. Escalate the concern. So we don't want to escalate things. Principle number 8. Okay, over here. Probably the easiest principle to remember. Number 8. Right? Just remember, no one likes a sponsor. Everyone loves the sponsor at the beginning of the project because we need him or her at that stage. But then at the end, when the project starts, forget about the sponsor, right? Explain to the executive that the reports follow the approved reporting format. Okay. Check that the reporting content aligns with the project's communications management plan. All right. We got to read this question. A senior IT executive actively involved in cloud migration project raises concerns the project's reports lack essential system performance and uptime data. Okay, so we don't have data. We don't have metrics, basically. That's what they're saying. Okay. What should we do? What should we do first? So if we look at C, explain to the executive reports follow the approved reporting format. That doesn't really solve the problem, right? There's a principle over here that, never immediately reject a request or an opportunity. Over here, this senior IT executive is saying that, hey, we need this data. And we're saying, no, we don't need it. It follows the approved reporting format. So you can think of that principle being contradicted here and doesn't solve the problem, right? We said B, no. So B and C are gone. And check that the reporting content aligns the project communications management plan. Well, again, it doesn't solve the issue. We need data. We need metrics. A is going to be the first thing that we do. And it's going to be the best people to ask for this are the team members. Okay. Let's move on. A, work with the team to redistribute the integration task based on availability and expertise. Okay, that doesn't seem like a bad thing. I can already kind of tell that if this is one of the options, maybe the question relates to someone leaving the company unexpectedly. Request a contract specialist through HR. Okay, yeah. So I'm assuming that it is right. Okay, to temporarily fill the gap. Now, we're not escalating things to HR. We're not saying, hey, HR, this is what happened. Can you solve my issue for me? No. We are involving we're involving them in this process. Now, typically speaking, we don't want to spend money, right? Typically speaking, we don't want to spend money, extra costs. Principle number 2. I'm not going to eliminate right away because I need to read the question to understand. Why? Because they mentioned the word specialist, and I'm gonna tell you guys something after reading the question. So we'll leave it for now. Raise the issue with the senior leadership for further direction. So no, we don't want to do that. That's going to be escalating. The senior leadership is not involved in this. Okay? If I'm correct when it comes to the question that someone has left the company, the senior leadership is not involved in this. This is synonymous for escalating. C is gone. Ask the specialist postpone their leave until after. Okay, so this is probably going to be the foundation of this question. We can't do this, right? If someone has to leave, they have to leave. C and D are gone. Let's read the question. I'm going to skip the first sentence. Actually, might be important. So a team implementing a new hospital. No, it's not. Okay. There we go. Must take immediate personal leave. Must take immediate personal. This person has to go. Leaving the critical integration task temporarily unattended. Now, I'm looking for this word over here, specialist. I don't know what this word is, interoperability specialist. I don't know what that is. That sounds interesting, but I have no idea. But this specialist, S word, I'm looking for this. Why? What does this imply? There's a reason why there's a specialist on the team, an SME, a subject matter expert. The reason being is because your core team cannot fill that gap in. When there is a specialist on your team, this person is distinguished, can do his or her task. No one else can do it up to par. Because of that, A is not going to work out. A is not going to work out. B is going to be the only option. Now, here's the little detail that I want you to understand. Principle number 2. Never settle for delays or extra costs. Extra costs will precede delays. Meaning that if you can spend money to prevent a delay, that's what you're going to do. If that's the only option you have. This person who is critical has to take immediate leave. Now this project is in jeopardy of being delayed. We want to resolve that by principle number 2. Contract someone. Okay? Hire someone temporarily. Awesome. Let us move on to question 11. Okay. A, draft a user story aligned with the new automation goals and schedule it in the next iteration. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Regarding our principles, at least. Advise the product owner and stop ongoing iteration until further notice. Okay, so we never want to stop things. This is not a good thing, right? It's going to be a delay. So if the question mentions wait, delay, postpone, eliminate that option, or even stop, right? I should add that in there, but I'll add it at the end. So anything that implies something being delayed, we never want to do. So forget about that. Let's eliminate it. Reprioritize the backlog to reflect the new strategic automation focus. Okay, I like that. Hold the team workshop to analyze how the change affects the current roadmap. I like that even more. Remember, when we see principle number 1, take that step back, collect that information, and we see other options. Principle number 1 is the way to go. Let's read this question. During the agile rollout of a factory floor control system, the company announces a strategic pivot towards full smart factory automation and AI-driven production analytics. I have lots, a mouthful of a question. What should the project manager do next? D, I have no doubts. Why the project team? Because your team members are, again, your experts. Principle number 7, right? So they're the best people to ask. And you're taking a step back. You're analyzing. Principle number 1. Simple as that. Okay. Number 12. A, notify the client and initiate the official change control process. Okay. Revise the design documentation, send it to the development team. All right. Team members are your experts, so this could be an option. Submit a change request for approval by the project sponsor. Interesting. So I wouldn't include the project sponsor alone, at least. I mean, I'm assuming the situation doesn't involve the sponsor, so it wouldn't make sense to include the project sponsor, but it's an interesting choice of stakeholders. So anyways, let's move on. Run a simulation of the updated logistic mod to validate the change. Okay, let's read the question. In an ERP upgrade project for an automotive plant, the technical team identifies a flaw in the approved logistics module design that can cause inventory tracking errors. Okay, so just note, when it comes to reading, none of that stuff is important. Again, we're setting up the situation. Why is this really important to master? Well, because the exam is a timed exam. You want to focus on what you need to focus on. After reviewing it with stakeholders and the sponsor, oh, there we go. When the answer involves a certain stakeholder, it's okay. Sorry, when the question involves a certain stakeholder, it's okay if the answer involves it. They agreed to update the design to avoid issues during implementation. What should the project manager do next? Okay. Design change means that the scope has changed, no matter how small or big the design change is. We need to submit a change control process or a change request. This is our principle number 6. So there's two of them that deal with that. There's A and there's C. Which one are we going to do? Notify the client to initiate the official change control process. Submit a change request for approval by the project sponsor. So the project sponsor is not the only one. In this scenario, he or she might be one of the people in the CCB, in the change control board. But it's important that the client knows about this change. The client is at least notified about it. Very, very important. Why? Because this is the client's product, the client's design, right? We need to tell the client about it. So A is going to be more important. A also implies that C is going to happen. When we submit the change control process, if the project sponsor is involved as a CCB member, he or she is going to get the change control anyways, right? They're going to approve it or reject it. But you have to go through that formal thing. You cannot skip out on that. Remember that, guys. Very important. Change management is a very important topic on the exam. What are two issues that these actions by the project manager could cause? That's a problem. You know what? For this one, I'm going to read the question, because this is like a multiple question. So a lot of the answers might be correct. So let's just read the question just to make things a little bit more efficient. So we got the Agile software project. The sponsor urges that the project manager drop retrospectives due to delivery pressure. The project manager decides to proceed with them anyway, but condenses the time for reflection and team input. What are two issues that could happen? Okay, so retrospect is very important. It allows us to understand, for like what do we do right, what do we do wrong, what can we do better, so the team is aligned, the team continuously improves, right? This concept of Kaizen. What should we do now? We want to condense this. So what would happen if we do this, right? Team may miss critical lessons shared across projects. Okay, that could happen. Discussions may become too chaotic to generate clear insights. That can happen too. Focus might remain on current issues without discussing future improvements. Okay, that could be 3 good answers. Team morale and purpose during sessions may decline. Okay, I don't really see that happening when it comes to shortening the retrospective. Let's just move on from there. The project charter may need to be updated. So no, E is not going to be the answer. So we're left with A, B, and C. Team may miss critical lessons shared across the projects. Discussions may become too chaotic to generate clear insights. I'm going to go with B. Focus might remain on current issues without discussing future improvements. And I'm going to go with C as well. B and C. Okay, choose 2. Now, the reason why I didn't choose A, team may miss critical lessons shared across the projects, is because when it comes to the daily stand-ups, you are discussing these like lessons, quote unquote, what you did and whatnot, right? The retrospective is that time to really discuss future as well. What can we do better? But I'd love to know your thoughts about this question in the comments. Let me know if you agree with me or you don't, and we could take it from there. Okay? Awesome. Let's move on to question number 14. A, record the delay in the project's progress documentation. So we never want to settle for a delay. Never want to do that. So let's avoid that for now. I'm not going to select it. Convene stakeholders to identify mitigation strategies. Have a meeting. Take a step back. Principle number 1. I like it. Personally assist with the development task to limit delays. So we don't want to personally assist. We as a project manager also have this principle, right? It involves our team members, but it also involves us. We are managing. We have so much on our plate already. We don't want to personally assist. C is gone. Escalate the issue to the sponsor. Principle number 8. Best answer here is going to be A. Let's read the question just in case. A lead developer with deep knowledge of data privacy and HIPAA compliance, I don't know what that is, leaves the team without notice. Okay, someone leaves. Technically, this is a risk. Why? Because the project can be delayed. B is going to be the best answer here. Mitigation strategy, risk mitigation strategies. What's the plan of action? A, ask the project sponsor to assist in negotiating event closure with the client. I wouldn't say this is really escalating, but I wouldn't involve the project sponsor. I would do it myself as a project manager. Let's just leave it for now. Request a change order from the client to analyze and resolve the issue. Okay. So this is mainly probably a change request. That's what change order here means. Don't worry, on your real exam, it'll be much more clear. They'll say like change request. Let's move on. Review the original event requirements and acceptance criteria and take action based on find. Oh, okay. Review, taking a step back. Principle number 1. Acceptance criteria. If there's a disagreement with what the client wants and what has been stipulated, we're going to find it in the acceptance criteria. Speak with the client to align expectation and agree on a revised deliverable scope. I don't want to do that, especially if we agreed on something initially. Because if we open that door again, we're going to have to work more, pay people more, extend the schedule, deal with more risks, especially if we agreed on something initially. So during the final phase of planning a high-profile corporate conference, the project manager learns that a key element of the event experience, the interactive networking platform, does not meet the client's expectations. Okay, acceptance criteria. Client's expectations, what you've initially agreed on, see if there's a match. If there's not a match, then the project manager is at fault. If there is a match, then the client is at fault. Okay, so C is going to be the best answer here. Principle number 1 as well. Remember, when you see principle number 1, make sure you select that before anything else. Okay. If you're interested, guys, in checking out the course, make sure to book that appointment. Best thing is that even if you don't sign up, you'll have an action plan to proceed with this exam, finishing it as soon as possible. Okay. Awesome. Question number 16. A, calculate additional coordination costs for remote post-production. Anytime they mention extra costs, your eyes should gleam towards principle number 2. So we're not going to eliminate it right away, because if there is a delay, then yes, we can spend more money, but I'm going to give it a soft elimination. Create a revised collaboration and workflow plan for remote contributors. Okay. Check the risk register for business continuity procedures. The risk register is not the right place for that. So business continuity procedures in this case is like more like a workflow, right? I'm not going to check the risk register for that. Submit a change request for increased contingency spending. So again, when it comes to spending more money, I want to avoid that. So let's read this question. After regional power grid failure, the project is forced into a fully remote workflow with limited access to shared studio resources. How can the project manager address this challenge to assure outsourced vendors deliver? Right, we revise the collaboration and workflow plan for remote contributors. Simple as that, right? I would even go a step further and say revise, review, instead of create, right? Do that step first, take that step back before actually creating this, right? Discuss it with the team members, okay? Principle number 1, basically. Awesome, we're doing well. A, analyze the consequences of skipping the audit and discuss with the client. Okay, yeah, technically taking a step back, principle number 1, but skipping an audit, that's a severe thing, right? In some companies, in some projects, an audit is actually a part of the law, the industry. Move forward with the audit as defined in the scope. Okay. Assign internal IT staff to conduct the review instead. So internal staff, again, you don't want to reduce the capacity of people, of other individuals. And if this audit is an external audit, then you can't have your IT members do it. Inform the client the audit will be skipped unless they reconsider. This is rejecting a request, okay? This is more aligned with this principle over here. If we need to do an audit, we shouldn't reject it. Let's read this question. A tech company is developing a custom enterprise software platform. The project plan includes a third-party cybersecurity audit before deployment. Although the audit is within budget, the client objects to the expense due to rising project costs. What should the project manager do? Okay, perfect. Audit is a part of the scope, meaning that we've agreed upon this. But the client is worried, like, hey, we're spending a lot of money. Now, if we move forward with the audit as defined in the scope, we can do that. That's what we agreed upon. We are rejecting the concern of our client. And that's what we don't want to do that, especially from a client. So the best thing is going to be principle number 1, analyze the consequence of skipping the audit and discuss this with the client. It's better to bring those concerns to the client, have everyone on board, and then proceed moving forward. All right, perfect. Let us move on to question number 18. Analyze initial feedback to determine test coverage. Include feature-specific acceptance requirements in the DoD definition of done. Create one set of baseline quality standards for all users. Clarify testing scope and then DOR definition of ready and acceptance expectations in DoD. Okay. No principles are being contradicted here. This is more of a terminology type question. But remember, guys, when I said this before, when there is a difference between what the client expected and what you've produced, you want to look at the acceptance criteria or the definition of done. So an educational technology company is building an agile learning platform with custom features for students, instructors, and admins. Each group has different functional needs and compliance considerations. How can the PM ensure that the appropriate acceptance criteria are applied to the features? Okay, the question is focusing on the acceptance criteria. So we're going to focus on that too, and we're going to say we're only going to look at the DoD definition of done. The best answer is going to be B. Okay? Simple as that. DoD definition of done, easy to remember. It literally defines what our final product will look like. Okay? All right, let's just read this question and we'll get into the answers. A software team in an e-commerce company is spending a disproportionate amount of time on project documentation, leading to delays in launching key features like payment gateway integration. How should the project manager respond? All right, so we're spending a lot of time doing project documentation. So what should we do? Deploy an automated system for documentation management to reduce manual effort. Okay. Intensify oversight to ensure document remains a primary focus. Okay. I mean, I'm not okay. Isn't this the opposite of what's happening? Intensify oversight to ensure. Yeah, so this is not going to solve the problem. Not only is it not going to solve the problem, it's going to add to the problem. Provide rewards for maintaining thorough documentation despite delays. No, I'm not going to reward someone for negative performance. Delays are very, very bad for projects, like I mentioned before. Stress that documentation alone will not ensure the successful launch of the platform. This is really important, guys. This is where the PMP gets a little bit confusing with the words and the detail. You have to have a good eye for detail when it comes to reading these problems. Is the problem about managing or prioritizing? Is the problem about managing documentation or prioritizing documentation? This is not a management problem. It's not like, you know what, we have an average number of documents coming in, but we still can't keep up because we're so busy with other stuff. No, they're prioritizing this project documentation. So we're not going to create an automated system because it's not going to help us. Rather, we're going to just stress. We're going to say to the team that, listen, this is not going to help us in the long run. D is going to be the best answer here. So this is why it's important that I always stress that, you know what, you can use the principles to help you out, but you have to understand the problem statement. You have to really understand. You have to have an eye for detail in understanding the problem statement. Awesome. So A, hire a web design consultant to conduct a usability analysis and recommend improvements. I don't like hiring right away. Principle number 2. We might need to hire someone, especially if they're a subject matter expert. I'm going to give it a soft elimination for now. Create a customer focus group to provide feedback on user experience and interface design. Okay. I like a customer focus group. That's one of the tools. If you now you don't have to memorize this. I don't want to freak you guys out, but the ITTOs, the inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. These are one of the tools, customer focus group. And it allows us to collect the feedback that we need in order to make a sound decision regarding the product. So let's leave it for now. Include high-level usability risks in the project risk register and define mitigation strategies later. Okay. Well, that's already throwing me off, right? Later. This is going to cause a delay. When we don't have a plan of action, to deal with risk, especially, we're gonna come across the risk, and then we're gonna look at our risk register and realize that, hey, I don't even have a plan of action. I'm gonna have to go back and create that plan now. Have a group of external users test the website features before the final approval for launch. Okay, let's look at the question now. During the initiation of an e-commerce website redesign project, the project manager reviews records from previous redesign and finds that it led to customer dissatisfaction and a higher bounce rate due to usability problems. How can the project manager prevent this outcome in the new project? B and D are going to be the best answers. But I like this a lot, this word here, because it uses one of the tools that the project manager, the PMP likes to use as well. A focus group. This could be external users as well, but you're providing feedback and you're enhancing the user experience through this focus group. One thing you guys have to note for the exam, by the way, is that that if the question goes about mentioning a specific tool, whether it be a specific plan, a register, whether it be like a focus group, they're using the tools for a reason. They want you to use those tools too, okay? So just note that down. B is going to be the best answer here. So how should the project manager handle this? Establish clear expectations for punctuality and attendance in daily stand-ups. Okay. Replace group members with individual check-ins, group meetings with individual check-ins to streamline the process. No. Meetings, the PMP loves meetings, by the way, right? And meetings are really important when it comes to project management. Meetings here are either remote, face-to-face, or in person, co-location. Individual check-ins are just inefficient. Ask senior leadership for guidance on managing this attendance issue. Well, okay, so they tell us what the issue is. Senior leadership is not responsible for this. So this is synonymous for escalating. So we don't want to do this. Okay. 8. Remember that escalating means you're bringing the issue to someone that has nothing to do with that problem. Work with the team to select a more convenient time for the daily stand-ups. Okay, let's see what the problem is. Project managers for a virtual event planning project has set up daily remote stand-up meetings. Oh, remote. Okay. Several team members are frequently late or miss these meetings, which delays the sharing of important updates. Okay. So D is not going to work out here because the question did not mention that, they're missing these because they have other stuff to do, right? This is a question where you have to remind your team of the ground rules. And these two words, ground rules, are going to be explicitly mentioned in the question. A is the one that implies it. On your exam, they'll say, remind your team of the ground rules. What are ground rules? Well, ground rules are basically rules that everyone on your team has to follow. Remember this one important distinction. Missing meetings and or frequently late, these are not considered quote unquote performance issues. If it's a performance issue, one of your team members are performing poorly, you don't want to just remind them, you want to have a private conversation with them. But in this case, you have a bunch of team members that are late. It's not considered a performance issue. So just remind them of the ground rules. A is going to be the best answer here. A, developing a dependency map to identify tasks relation on installation process. Ooh, okay, so I don't see anything wrong here. A little bit technical. Applying decomposition, to break large task installations into smaller, manageable tasks. So if the question is about, we have a big task that we don't know how to do, we're gonna break it down. Decomposition is what you want. WBS is an option as okay. We'll leave it for now because I don't know the situation, so we'll have to read it. Perform resource leveling to allocate work evenly across the installation team. Okay, this is more of a technical problem. In a project involving the installation of a new manufacturing equipment, the project charter has been authorized. Okay. The PM is collaborating with the team to break down large installation work packages into smaller ones. Decomposition, guys. Come on. If you don't know this term, make sure you know it. Very important. Decomposition. This is more of a technical question. You won't get much of these, but it's still good to know. Okay. A, exclude the AI tool from the project to avoid unnecessary complexity. If AI is an important component of the scope, we can't avoid it. Let's move on. Support the engineers in learning the new tool and taking responsibility for the integration. Now, that's nice. This is principle number 3. You're supporting. You're being a servant leader. Okay. They're taking responsibility. You want your team members to take responsibility. Hire external consultants to implement the AI tool quickly and avoid delays. There's 2 problems with this one. External consultants takes money, and implement the AI tool quickly. What does that mean? There can be a lot of rework. But I'm going to leave it. The reason why I'm going to leave it is because if the question states that your team members don't know what's going on, they never worked with this before, we might need to hire a SME. Contract an AI-focused vendor to handle tools integration. So D and C are pretty similar. Let's look at the answers, the question. So in a marketing automation system implementation project, the integration of a newly released AI-driven customer analytics tool is required. Is required, meaning that A is gone. The team lacks experience with the tool, but senior engineers are confident they can master it without delaying the project timeline. This is very important. If they only mention the team lacks experience with the tool, I would either choose C or D. Your team members are not coming up to you and saying that, listen, PM, we are confident that we can master it. Let them grow. Be a servant leader. Trust your team members. Let them grow. That's what you want, right? You wanna support them. B is gonna be the right answer. Okay, 24, almost done. One more question after this. Validate that all stakeholders are documented in the engagement plan. Okay. Analyze post-mortems from prior EHR upgrade projects. Generate lessons learned documents specific to this phase. My apologies. Assess the impact of proposed updates and documents. So that's principle number 1. B is also principle number 1. So we have to kind of look at the question. But the good candidates are going to be B and D. Let's see what else there is, okay? So a hospital system is enhancing its electronic healthcare record, EHR platform. Past updates led to the workflow disruptions. The project manager determined to avoid the same issues during the upgrade. What should he do? So what should he or she do? Analyze post-mortems from prior EHR upgrade projects. Assess the impact of proposed updates. And document associated risks. B is going to be the first answer. Because we haven't mentioned anything about proposed updates. If we analyze what we did wrong, then we can use that information to make a sound decision on what we need to do in the future. B is going to be the best answer. B wouldn't have been the answer. We could eliminate B if they did not mention past updates. Remember that, very important. You have to mention it in the question so that we select that right answer. And the last question of the day, guys. Question number 25. Let me zoom into this a little bit more. Okay, I think it's good. So analyze spending with the project team to pinpoint budget discrepancies. Okay, I like that. Project team, your experts. Principle number 7. Immediately inform the stakeholders of the projected cost overrun. We might want to analyze, right? Principle number 1 first. We don't want to freak people out. Submit a formal change request to adjust the budget baseline. Approach the sponsor to determine next steps for cost recovery. So we don't need to go to the sponsor. The best thing is take that step back. Do A. Take that step back. Figure out more information first. Make it deliberate. Collect information so you can make a deliberate decision at the end. Okay. So those are the questions, guys. Hopefully you had some mindset training. Remember, if you're interested in the course, book an appointment with us. We'll show you around. And the best thing is you'll have an action plan at the end to use so you can get certified as soon as possible. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and give it a like. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and have a fantastic rest of the day.